Ba 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 bum bum bum. Ba ba bum bum ba bum bum bum. Bless the rains on Wakanda. Hey, welcome back to the ManaWeave. As always, I'm Joe, and today we are talking about Wakanda Forever. We're going to roll through a stat breakdown, and then as previously, we will give you the new cards for the deck, the reprint value in the deck, and also some potential swap-ins that may interest you if you are looking to upgrade this deck. We try to stay under $10 for those, but it doesn't always happen. We'll see what happens. All right, so we'll start this off talking about the reprints and the value that you get with these reprints. The reprint value you're looking at getting this deck is 46 cards sitting somewhere around $136.25, give or take at the time of the making of this video at least. You have a bunch of interesting older reprints and some newer, more common commander staples that are in this, and honestly, the first thing that kind of caught my interest is that we get another printing of Birds of Paradise, this time in the form of Wakandan cranes. It's a classic Magic card that really doesn't see reprints all that often, although there have been a fair amount over time now. This might be one of your cheapest printings you can snag it for. Just like the other Marvel Precons, we get a new printing of one of the Battle Bond two-headed giant dual lands. This is one of the most expensive reprints in the deck, sitting above $20, and most of your other reprints in the deck are under 10, honestly. It is really cool to see a fair slew of classic reprints for artifacts. This is a very artifact-leaning deck, and they have definitely done a great job of bringing back some classics. Among those, we have the Hammer of Nizan, Conduit of Worlds, Coveted Jewel, Gilded Lotus, Helm of the Host, Mind's Eye, Sword of the Animist, Thran Dynamo, and Whisper Silk Cloak. I skipped a couple of, or a few really, of the more commonly reprinted, although they are staple artifacts in a lot of these commander decks you're seeing. They are not all that uncommonly printed, we'll say. Now, moving into deck stats. In this deck, you were looking at around 14 pieces of ramp, 11 pieces of draw, and then somewhere around 11 Monarch, which I would consider draw enablers. You have 9 pieces of target interaction, 7 mass interruption, and 38 lands. The land count is on the lower end, but you are supported by these meta power stones in the Vibranium tokens that come out. They come in tapped, they can only pay for artifacts, but there are a fair amount of artifacts that are high cost but high yield in this deck, as far as mana rocks, to be clear. And speaking of, we have 24 artifacts above 4 mana value. That's 24 artifacts that are 4 mana value or greater. You have 10 artifacts matters cards, 11 +1/+1 counters cards, and then 11 token generators and 8 equipment. On the lower end of equipment, normally if you want to see something in a deck consistently, you put 12 in, but the equipments that are in this deck are ridiculously good, and most of them are on that list of reprints that I listed earlier. The average mana value for this deck is sitting at 3.65. It is on the medium to higher end, but again, you're constantly supposed to be pumping out these miniature mana rocks that are boosting you into these higher end mana rocks to get your more and more spells off. This deck is susceptible to your wraths that are either one-sided or your wraths that are especially artifact based. It would really suck to get out all of these indestructible tokens, which, to be fair, the vibranium tokens are indestructible, but it would suck to get them out and then have them all exiled, along with your big mana rocks that you've spent the majority of your earlier games setting up whilst trying to pay off the later game, and then you're left with nothing to do that with. Beware, I would say, of that. That is a definitely an Achilles heel of this deck. This deck is helmed by the face commander siblings of T'Challa the Black Panther and Shuri the Black Panther. They are two similar but different play styles. Again, kind of calling back to the choices made for the Dr. Doom Precon, that they have chosen to give you two commanders that will play well with the deck, but go in seemingly a little bit different directions, even though they play similarly. So you have T'Challa the Black Panther. 1, a green and a white for a 2/2 legendary human noble hero creature. He reads, whenever T'Challa enters or attacks, create a tapped vibranium token. Whenever you cast an artifact spell with mana value 4 or greater, put 2 +1/+1 counters on T'Challa. That is your base commander on the box, and the secondary, I believe, intended commander is his sister Shuri. Shuri the Black Panther. Green and a white for a 2/3 legendary human noble hero creature with lifelink, and she reads, whenever Shuri attacks, draw a card if you control 3 or more artifacts. Then if you control 6 or more artifacts, creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. The deck feels split between themes. It wants to do the traditional Selesnya thing of generating tokens and adding +1/+1 counters, but it doesn't have enough of them in the deck to pay off successfully together. The other sub-theme running in this deck, and I would argue that should have been the main focus, is the Artifacts and Equipments Matter cards. The two lead commanders really reflect this as well. The face commander T'Challa wants to grow and attack, feeding himself bigger mana value artifacts to grow from as he generates vibranium mana rocks to cast bigger and more artifacts. While Shuri acts as a draw engine, and then a +2/+2 banner for your token creatures as more artifacts enter your side of the field. They both are very attack reliant commanders, but both of them go in a slightly different direction in that Shuri does give you the draw, but she wants to be a banner for your creatures, for your board to be a wide, for the army to stand wide and then grow tall. Or at least tall enough to survive. Where with Black Panther, he is going to grow exponentially and honestly probably pretty quickly in this particular deck because you have so many cards, 24 artifacts that are above 4 or above, excuse me, and therefore that's 24 chances for him to get +2/+2. And honestly, if you're able to get enough vibranium out, you can get 2 or 3 of those spells off in a turn, and he's getting +6/+6, and he already starts at a decent amount. That's a very vicious Voltron attacker. Just to name the split of where these siblings differ. There are 4 other potential commander options in this deck. They are varied and somewhat similar in their... It's a very synergistic deck, but some definitely lean more towards others. Some lean towards each other as far as play style. But to give you the first, we have Bast, Panther Goddess. 2, a green and a white for a 4/4 legendary cat god creature with reach, trample, and indestructible. Bast can't attack or block unless you control 3 or more creatures. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. Bast is a great addition to the 99 for either of these face commanders. It wants to add power and toughness to your best creatures, or for your Voltron commander, more likely. And that boost is based on the amount of creatures you control, so a go-wide strategy with tokens creatures does feed that as well. Like a lot of the other gods, it's worth noting that you have to meet a certain requirement in order for it to attack or block, but it is still considered a creature for its own purposes and requirements from the get-go. Okoye, Mighty and Adored. 2, a green and a white for a 3/3 legendary creature, human warrior hero. She says, when Okoye enters, you become the monarch. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Whenever that creature attacks the monarch this turn, it gains double strike and trample until end of turn. She supports a really weird playstyle that may be fun to build around, honestly. She's one of a couple legendary commander options in this list that introduces the monarch to the game. You get a free draw from her, and as the monarch gets passed around, Okoye allows you to kind of politic a little bit. You are not required to put the +1/+1 counter on your own creatures, and so you can really entice opponents to attack one another by giving their creatures a +1/+1 counter, double strike, and trample. Just make sure you are not the monarch. Storm, Queen of Wakanda. 3, a green and a white for a 4/5 legendary mutant noble hero creature with flying. She says, whenever Storm attacks, until end of turn, another target attacking creature gains flying and gets +X/+0, where X is Storm's power. Whenever a creature with flying attacks you, Storm deals damage equal to her power to that creature. Storm is a great air deterrent for air attackers coming your way. She blasts anything coming your way in the air with toughness 4 or less immediately. Similar to Bast, when she attacks, she boosts one other creature until end of turn, but she does give the added evasion flying to that creature as well. She's really going to help T'Challa to get through after he grows and give you an easier Voltron style with him. He and Storm have a history in the comics, and so it's really fun to see that they have this interesting background synergy. To be fair, she's really good to get any of your big creatures through, and there are some big creatures in this deck that you're going to want to get through aside from T'Challa. We'll get there. T'Chaka, Venerable King. A green and a white for a 2/2 legendary human noble hero creature. He says, when T'Chaka enters, mill 3 cards, then you may put an artifact or land card from among the milled cards into your hand. You can pay 3 and exile this card from your graveyard. You become the monarch. Activate only if you control your commander. T'Chaka is unique. When he enters, he basically lets you look at your top 3 and put a land or artifact in your hand. The other 2 cards do go to your graveyard, but card draw is never really a bad thing. This is the other potential commander legendary that has the ability to add the monarch mechanic into the game, and it's so thematic that you have to have your commander out and you have to exile T'Chaka from your graveyard in order to pass along the title of monarch, king to king, so to speak. I definitely feel this is better in the 99. He is again, just like Storm, very synergistic with T'Challa, but can work just as well with Shuri, honestly. So we're going to go over the new creature cards that are coming out with this deck exclusively. We'll go in alphabetical order, but we will kick things off with the Dora Milaje. Dora Milaje Elite, to be specific. Dora Milaje Elite, 1 and a white, for a 2/2 creature human warrior with first strike. When this creature enters, if an opponent controls more lands than you, create a Vibranium token. You can sacrifice this creature. Legendary permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn. The Dora Milaje is the King's Guard, and that holds true with their card representation having this sack ability. Make no mistake, this creature can hold its own in a fight too. With the first strike ability and a bit of counterpumping, this is a formidable creature in its own right. And you take all of that and you add on the fact that it helps you ramp by making an artifact only mana rock if you're behind, or even if you go later in the turn rotation, is stellar for a new white creature. Come from behind is nothing new in the white archetype. Everett K. Ross, Hapless Attaché. 2 and a white for a 1/3 legendary human advisor creature. He says, commander creatures you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink. Whenever an opponent attacks you with 2 or more creatures, draw a card. I have the odd desire to try out Everett Ross in a partner commander deck where he will pump both of them since he says commander creatures, plural. But realistically, this is another come from behind white creature that gives you card draw as payback for being attacked by an opponent who has more creatures than you. It is a repeatable draw, but being attacked by 2 or more creatures is a pretty steep cost. He does give your commander lifelink at least to make up for the damage you're most likely going to be taking. But what more is there to say? It's not Martin Freeman, but I'll take him. Atut Zaraze, Strike Force. 3 and a white for a 2/2 creature human spy warrior. When you cast a spell, copy it for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. When this creature enters, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. This is an interesting new removal spell creature that gets better the longer the game goes on. The more you are set back, the more this helps you to even things out, or maybe even stop an opponent from running away with the game. It's great that you also get multiple bodies along with the removal too, and I see this spell helping you to recover from multiple board wipe situations to come out on top. M'Baku Jabari Chieftain. 1 and 2 green for a 4/3 legendary human noble warrior creature. He says, at the beginning of your end step, if there is no monarch, target opponent becomes the monarch. Whenever a creature attacks one of your opponents, if that player is the monarch, that creature gets +1/+1 against trample until end of turn. Similar to Okoye, M'Baku introduces monarch to the game, but wants your opponents to keep the monarch title while subtly manipulating the game by boosting any creatures who attack an opponent holding that title. He also gives those creatures trample to make it extra enticing for your opponents to throw their creatures at one another. Nakia, Wakandan Operative, 2 and a green for a 3/3 legendary human warrior hero creature. She has reach, and she says whenever your commander enters, you become the monarch. 2, tap her and put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature or vehicle. Activate only as a sorcery. Nakia is almost the opposite of M'Baku, in as much as that she gives you the monarch when she enters instead of giving it to your opponents. And this at least guarantees that you'll get 1 draw from her entering the battlefield, but it does put a target on your back. She taps to add a couple +1 counters to a creature or vehicle, which is nice when you can do it each turn to grow your Voltron commander or your best creature with evasion of some sort. Panther Robot. 10 generic mana for an 8/8 artifact cat robot creature with affinity for artifacts, reach, and trample. Seems pretty straightforward at first. But to say it at the top here, this is a ridiculously expensive card. In the right situation with enough vibranium tokens, you have potentially the ability to get it for free, which makes it ridiculously cheap instead. Affinity for artifacts works really well with the way that the deck is set up, pumping out vibranium tokens and other equipments and artifacts on the field. Whether you're getting it cheaper or more expensive, an 8/8 with reach and trample is great for attacking or for blocking. This is going to be one of those threats I was talking about earlier that is definitely going to give you a massive body on the board, but also give you a secondary target to kind of draw fire away from whoever you're running for your commander. Queen Mother Ramonda, 3 and 2 white for a 3/5 legendary human noble creature. When Queen Mother Ramonda enters, you become the monarch. As long as you're the monarch, creatures with power 2 or less can't attack you. This is another creature that cares about you holding the monarch title in order to give a similar effect to Storm. She prevents lower to the ground, go wide strategies from getting around your defenses to take the monarch from you. She does at least give you the draw with the monarch when she enters, but again, that is going to put a target on your back. It is nice that you have some level of deterrent in this deck that will, again, similar to Storm, you have your air deterrent with Storm, then you have your low to the ground deterrent with Queen Ramonda. Wakabi, Shield of the Nation. 1 and a green for a 2/3 legendary human warrior hero creature with vigilance. He says whenever you attack with your commander, if you control an artifact with mana value 4 or greater, create a 4/4 green rhino creature token with trample. It's nice that he has vigilance because he starts off with that 2/3 and he's able to attack but still stay back for the block. And when you pump him up, he himself can be a threat, but he doesn't necessarily need to swing. His effect will go off just because your commander attacks. He is a wonderful general in this deck, as he gets paid off for T'Challa attacking and for you having an artifact with mana value 4 or greater. A 4/4 token with trample is a great creature to be able to get a turn after turn, and you can save them up as a big-butted blocker army, or even to throw a wall of rhinos at your enemies to close out the game. Speaking of one of the other threats I was referring to, Zuri, Warrior of Wakanda. 1 and a green for a 2/2 legendary human warrior hero creature with trample. He says whenever you cast an artifact spell with mana value 4 or greater, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. This is another payoff for casting 4 or greater mana value artifacts, but the nice part here is that it's whenever you cast one. You don't have to attack to get this bonus. It grows himself along with the rest of your board when he triggers, which is absolutely nuts, because he has trample, so he has a form of evasion to get through, on top of the fact that as you're just naturally playing this deck, he is going to grow massively while helping the rest of your board grow. And on to new artifact cards. We do have a great amount of reprints in the list of artifacts, but we have some really great new artifacts that are exclusively from this deck. Thank you, Wakanda. Heart-shaped herb is 4 generic for an artifact that says if a source an opponent controls would deal damage to you, prevent 1 of that damage. You can pay 2 and tap it and sacrifice this artifact. You may sacrifice a creature. If you do, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control with 3 +1/+1 counters on it, and you become the monarch. The ability to take 1 damage off the top of every source of damage coming at you is okay. It gets so much better, again, the longer the game goes on, and the longer that this artifact sits on the field. It is nice to be able to sack it to get a Kaya's ghost form like ability that brings your creature back from the graveyard with counters on it, and a 3 is nothing to sneeze at either. It comes out with 3 counters on it, and it makes you the monarch. Can't be mad at it. A beacon of utility, we have Kamoyo beads. 4 generic for an artifact that reads, at the beginning of your end step, choose one that hasn't been chosen. AV bead, draw a card. Communication bead, create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. Or prime bead. You gain 3 life, exile this artifact, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. I'm a little surprised here that these beads aren't an equipment. Even the art shows them being worn. It's definitely a utility knife of versatility, as it has the ability to blink itself, making its uses almost unlimited. It gives you draw, token bodies, and life gain, all at a repeatable no-cost trigger. You get to decide when to blink it, so if the tokens aren't as important to you, this nets you an extra draw and 3 life every other turn. Or if you don't need the draw, but the tokens matter more, you can get 3 life and 2 bodies every other turn. This artifact will have plenty of great utility, especially in this deck. King Solomon's Frogs. 3 and a white for a legendary artifact with flash. When King Solomon's Frogs enters, if you cast it, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target permanent that player controls with mana value 3 or greater. For each permanent exiled this way, its controller draws a card. You can pay 3 and tap it, exile it, you become the monarch. It's nice to see another new legendary artifact. This one can be cast at any time and functionally removes the best 3 enemy cards from the field at the cost of gifting each of your opponents a card. Or at least each of them that had something removed. Once it's finished doing that, it does at least have a secondary use in that you can take the Monarch and get yourself at least one draw. Even if you have previously entered Monarch into the game and it's been taken from you, you just become the Monarch. And that is the nice part about a lot of these cards in this deck, having that ability is you don't have to go into combat necessarily to claim the crown. You're right to it. Midnight Angel Armor, 3 and 2 white for an artifact equipment. When this equipment enters, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token, then attach this equipment to it. Equipped creature gets +3/+3 and has flying and vigilance. The equip cost is 3. While it's great to get another equipment that creates a creature to attach itself to when it enters, the real payoff for this card and why it belongs in this deck is to enable either Black Panther sibling to fly over blockers while remaining untapped for defense. I'm not mad at the additional +3/+3 to the creature either, really. With T'Challa out, you can play this artifact to boost him with 2 +1 counters, and after equipping it, swing for commander damage over the course of 3 turns for a Voltron kill. Nayami class Mothership. For 6 generic, you get a 5/7 artifact vehicle with flying, vigilance, and haste. Whenever this vehicle deals combat damage to a player, look at the top card of your library. If it's a permanent card, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you don't put it onto the battlefield, put it into your hand. The crew cost is 3. This is a fantastic payoff for all the Vibranium you have lying around. As long as you have 3 power worth of creatures when you cast this vehicle, you are pretty much guaranteed to swing this flyer over an opponent's blockers. That means that for 6 generic mana, you will get a Vigilance Flying Attacker/Blocker that gives you a free permanent spell each turn, or at least an extra draw each turn. A really interesting new one, Panther Habit. For 4 generic, you get an artifact equipment that reads, if equipped creature would be dealt damage, prevent that damage and put that many +1/+1 counters on it. Equip cost is 2. This is another new artifact that gives you a meta version of Indestructible, which is fantastic. Even better, this artifact causes your creature to grow quickly and massively based on damage prevented. This deck wants to attack and press the aggressive commander playstyle, and this card will make sure that your commander is taking damage and converting it into damage given to your opponents later. Royal Talon Fighter Jet. X and 2 white for a 1/1 artifact vehicle with flying. This vehicle enters with X +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever this vehicle enters or attacks, create a number of 1/1 white soldier creature tokens equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on it. The crew cost is 2. I'm happy to see yet another payoff for the massive amount of artifact mana we're going to have access to in this deck. For 2 white and however much mana you're willing to put into this thing, however much you're willing to invest, you're getting a flying vehicle, but also a potentially incredible amount of token soldier creatures. And if that's not enough already, it continues to generate the same amount of tokens every time it attacks each turn. I see this vehicle working like a soldier token Cranko and becoming a problem very, very quickly for your opponents. Shuri's Fabricator. 4 generic for an artifact that reads, when this artifact enters, create 2 tapped Vibranium tokens. You can pay 6 and tap this artifact. Return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Activate only as a sorcery. It's nice that this artifact somewhat pays you back in a portion of its mana value in Indestructible Mana Rocks, even if they do come in tapped. But for 6 mana, you're getting some of the only recursion in the deck, and it's no surprise that it's relegated to artifact spells. You're limited to sorcery speed, but the artifacts do go from the graveyard directly into play at least. They just happen to come in with that. If this, with the token, with the counter on it that says if it dies, it gets exiled, or if it's destroyed, it gets exiled, meaning you are going to lose this forever. But to be fair, you wouldn't have gotten to play it from your graveyard anyway, so it's giving each of those artifacts a second life, which is a great payoff, honestly. The Spear of Bashenga. 4 and 1 white for a legendary artifact equipment And it reads, when the Spear of Bashanga enters, if there is no monarch, you become the monarch. The equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has vigilance. Whenever equipped creature attacks the monarch, destroy target tapped non-land permanent that player controls. The equip cost is 2. Yet another way to gain the monarch in this deck, this time taking the form of a legendary equipment artifact. It is of note that it does specifically say if someone already is the monarch, you may not take the monarch. You have to then use the attack trigger to get it. But since we want to attack with either of the face commanders, the vigilance and the +2/+2 banner will be a nice bonus to keep our commander attacking and blocking each turn. The really nice long-term plan here is to pick off opponents' blockers or threats after they have become the monarch. Alternatively, it is a deterrent to opponents taking the monarch title from you. Vibranium Mining Mech. 4 generic for a 6/6 artifact vehicle with trample. Whenever this vehicle enters or attacks, create a tapped Vibranium token. You can pay 2 with a colon. This creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. The crew cost is 2. Our third and final new vehicle coming out of this deck, Vibranium Mining Mech is a big, nasty 6/6 trample creature when it's crewed. It's going to help you with that artifact ramp plan by continuously giving you Vibranium tokens when it enters and when it attacks. And finally, it has a fire-breathing ability that it's similar to a lot of the dragons in Magic the Gathering. It's an ability that allows you to dump mana into it to push the power of the creature to crazy levels, while it also has trample to let those huge swings through. Anybody that's a fan of Shuri knows the next artifact. Vibranium Strike Gauntlets. 4 generic for an artifact equipment with flash. It says when this equipment enters, attach it to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +3/+0 and has trample. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. The equip cost is 3. This equipment comes in with the ability to attach itself when it enters, but even better than that is that it has flash, so you can use it as a sort of combat trick. It does increase the power of the equipped creature and it grants you trample, but the payoff to playing this mid-combat is to get a good amount of damage past a chump blocker while getting the card draw from dealing that damage. It's fantastic repeatable draw on an equipment in a deck that wants to press the attack every turn. Whether this is on Shuri or on T'Challa, this card is going to pay off in draw. And we got one new instant from this deck, Fight for the Throne. 1 and a green for an instant that says put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, then it fights target creature an opponent controls. When the creature an opponent controls dies this turn, if you control your commander, you become the monarch. Now this is a really unique card, honestly. It's a target interaction spell that buffs one of your creatures, and then it forces a fight with an opponent's creature. If that creature dies and you control your commander, this introduces Monarch to your side of the field. And again, even if one of your opponents has it, it gives you the Monarch, as long as you control your commander. So for 2 mana, you get to buff a creature, remove an opponent's creature, while getting at least 1 draw on the turn you play this card. For 2 mana at instant speed, that is really, really damn good value. In sorceries, we have 2. First, we have Ancestral Communion. 1 and a green for a sorcery that reads, when you cast this spell while you control your commander, copy this spell. You may choose a new target for the copy. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. You get an Eternal Witness or a Revive the Shire effect, but instead of getting a creature body or a food token, you're getting 2 permanents back from your graveyard as long as you control your commander. This is another graveyard recursion card that will help you to get those good creatures twice to double their value in this deck. It cannot be overstated how great it is to bring back a lot of your spells, be they artifacts or in this case, creatures. And our second and final new sorcery, we have Wakanda Forever. 4 and 2 green for a sorcery that says, reveal the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a permanent card from among them onto the battlefield with an indestructible counter on it. You may put a permanent card from among them into your hand, put the rest into your graveyard. Very intriguing. You get to look at the top 6 cards, and you get a free cast that hopefully costs enough to make this 6 mana value spell worth the discount. You do get to draw one of the other 5 cards, so it's still a win overall. But there are plenty of expensive but wonderful payoff spells in the deck that would be great just to put on the battlefield without paying for them. And honestly, you have to include the fact that it gets an indestructible counter, regardless of if it's a artifact, an enchantment, or a creature. It just has to be a permanent. There's around 30 cards that cost 4 or more and are permanents in this deck. That's around a third of the deck that will make the cost of this card worth it with the secondary draw effect considered. And that is it for the cards we have new from the deck exclusively, and they are some really interesting, really I think gonna go up in some cool combo artifacts especially. Happy to see Wakanda getting representation. We'll move into the next section of our breakdown. These are 10 cards to potentially add if you would like to spice up your deck. As always, I do not suggest any cards to remove. I advise you to play with the deck first and try it out, see what you feel doesn't work for you and that you would like to swap out for maybe some of our suggestions. It is a list of 10, and I usually give some honorable mentions. This time we have 3 honorable mentions. So it's a total of 13 cards that we're looking at here, but without further ado, I'll jump right in. The Aether Spark. 4 generic for a legendary artifact planeswalker equipment that comes in with 4 loyalty counters, and it reads, as long as the Aether Spark is attached to a creature, the Aether Spark can't be attacked and has, whenever equipped creature deals combat damage during your turn, put that many loyalty counters on the Aether Spark. Its +1 ability is attach the Aether Spark to up to 1 target creature you control, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. Its -5 ability is to draw 2 cards. Its -10 ability is to add 10 mana of any one color. This is a fantastic 4 mana value artifact that will absolutely beef up your commander and add just so much value when you are able to add loyalty counters via damage from your commander and subtract from it then only really to give you the mana or the draw, most likely. I see this doing enough work to potentially give you that -5 almost every turn, really, if not every other turn. Chameel, the Inner Sun, is 6 generic for a legendary artifact that says spells you control can't be countered. At the beginning of your end step, discover 5. Exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card with mana value 5 or less. Cast it without paying its mana cost, or put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. So again, a high-cost artifact is really, really great, but you're also getting the stopping your opponents from being able to counter your spells is very powerful in Commander. But the ability to essentially get a cascade at the end of each of your turns is invaluable. The fact that this is 5 mana value or less means that you're going to be hitting some of those 4 and 5 cost artifacts, and you're going to be getting them out for free. And so by the time your next turn comes around, your board state will have grown after your turn almost. That is unspeakably good. And speaking of a card that is unspeakably good in this deck, we have Origin of Metal Bending. For 1 and a green, you get an instant lesson that says choose 1, destroy target artifact or enchantment, or put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains indestructible until end of turn. I love me some removal, but honestly, this is here to beef up and protect your commander. Again, the Achilles heel of this being a weakness to removal, this will help you so much at instant speed, and the fact that it doubles up as a artifact or enchantment removal for one of your opponents is invaluable. In the 4th slot, we have artifact discounters. Cards like Cloud Key, Foundry Inspector, Joyrus Familiar, Starnheim Courser, or the Voyager Quick Welder. And I'll have flashed them on the screen, but those cards are the only ones in these colors that are capable of discounting your artifacts outright and lean into that artifact playstyle. Next, we have Thousand Moon Smithy. 2 and 2 white for a legendary artifact that says, when Thousand Moon Smithy enters the battlefield, create a white gnome soldier artifact creature token with this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of artifacts and or creatures you control. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you may tap 5 untapped artifacts and or creatures you control. If you do, transform Thousand Moon Smithy. The other side reads, Barracks of the Thousand. It's a legendary artifact land. You can tap it to add a white, but the real ability here is whenever you cast an artifact or creature spell using mana produced by Barracks of the Thousand, create a white gnome soldier artifact creature token with this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of artifacts and or creatures you control. This is not very difficult to flip in this deck at all, and then on top of that, the fact that it gives you that gnome body that is probably going to be pretty big when it comes out. And then after it's flipped, as you're just doing your thing and using this as a land and casting your artifact spells naturally, you're going to continue to get those gnome tokens that are just out of hand and growing as your board state grows. As the more vibranium tokens you have, the more out of hand this land gets. Another pretty cheap, monetarily speaking, card that can get you so much work out of it and really does a lot for tokens. Fractal Harness. For X, 2 and a green, you get an artifact equipment that reads, when this equipment enters, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token, put X +1/+1 counters on it, and attach this equipment to it. Whenever equipped creature attacks, double the number of +1/+1 counters on it. Equip cost is 2. You get a potentially massive creature, since this is technically an artifact and therefore vibranium can be tapped to pay it. You can get a massive creature out of this, but even better than that, this can then be swapped to one of your commanders, especially T'Challa, who is giving himself when this comes in, as long as X is 2 or more, he's going to get 2 +1/+1 counters. And so for, the cost of really 6 or so, you're paying 2 for X, 2 and for 5 rather, not 6. You're paying 2 for X, 2 generic, and a green to cause T'Challa to grow by 2, and then paying 2 more to equip it to double the amount of counters when he attacks. Unbeatable value. This is going to make one of your commanders absolutely deadly very quickly. And of course, I have to have the Secret Lair Black Panther on this list. Black Panther Wakandan King. For a green and a white, you get a 2/2 legendary human noble hero creature with first strike, and he has 2 abilities. Survey the Realm. Whenever Black Panther or another creature you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target land you control. And Mine Vibranium. 3 generic for move all +1/+1 counters from target land you control onto target creature. If 1 or more +1/+1 counters are moved this way, you gain that much life and you draw a card. This is great support for either of your commanders to continue to grow as you are able to continue casting creatures, adding those +1s to your lands, and then paying to move all of the +1s onto one of your commanders or even one of your other threat creatures. Not only that, but this version of Black Panther is a 2/2 that has the capacity to grow and have first strike, which is deadly in and of itself. And so you can even throw some of the +1/+1 counters on this in the background and have this just be a really great blocker in the background as a utility creature aside from that. Use its abilities essentially and just use it as a first strike blocker to take care of any of those attackers. And the first card that came to my mind when I was thinking of this particular add-ins list, Diadrene Synthesis Amalgam. For X, a green and a white, you get a 0/1 legendary artifact construct creature that has trample. Diadrene enters with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the amount of mana spent to cast it. Whenever you attack, you may remove a +1/+1 counter from each of 2 creatures you control. If you do, draw a card and create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. This is similar to the harness, the Fractal Harness, except that it is a creature as opposed to an equipment. It doesn't double the counters, don't get me wrong, but what I mean by that is that it enters as a big creature with the ability to not just trample, but be whatever you're willing to pay for it in counters. Now, the other nice part is that this never even really has to attack. This can just be, again, a scary blocker. The third ability it has, whenever you attack, being able to remove counters, you can remove counters from it, you can remove counters from any of your other creatures as you're getting creatures, as you're adding those +1s to creatures. It is not limited to itself, and so you really have a lot of utility for this because you can attack with a different creature, you can remove the +1s from other creatures, and then it will stay alive and stay tough to be able to block while giving you both draw and chump blockers, really, 2/2 robot artifacts. But even those, if you are able to boost your artifact creatures, or if you're able to just boost your board in general, can become deadly at some point to overrun. Our next card is Bronze Guardian. 4 and a white for an asterisk power and a toughness of 5. Artifact golem creature with double strike. It has ward 2 and says other artifacts you control have ward 2. Bronze Guardian's power is equal to the number of artifacts you control. This already has a very large behind on it as a 5. That's great for attacking, blocking, whatever you really need it to survive. It's going to survive most things. But the fact that, like, if you're able to pump out a bunch of Vibranium tokens, this thing comes in with 6 or 7 power and then double strike. This is an immediate monstrous threat on the board. It's an artifact creature, so a lot of your artifact discounters can help you to discount it. Imagine paying 1 white for this. That is outrageous, but it's possible. And to top all of that off, it has ward 2. It has protection for itself. And then it gives your other artifacts ward 2. So all of these other wonderful artifacts, whether it's off of my list or honestly from the actual deck, the artifacts, the Achilles heel of the deck being that if you take out its artifacts, you cripple a lot of what it can do. That right there is solved by the Bronze Guardian's ability to give ward and stop a lot of that targeted removal that's going to slow down and pick apart your board state. And last but not least on our list, we have Kutzel Malamet Exemplar. It's a cat. We love cats. For 1, a green and a white, you get a 3/3 legendary cat warrior creature that says your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control, each with power greater than its base power, deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. In this deck, you're going to be, not only is your commander going to be attacking with +1/+1 counters on it and therefore be stronger than its initial base power, you're going to be doing that to your entire board state. And so there's almost never going to be a creature you're swinging with that isn't going to be enhanced in some way, have the +1s to make its power more than what it started as. Because of this, you are going to reap so many rewards of this card. The amount of draw that this will provide to you is absolutely crazy. But on top of that, you have the first ability is really, really great as well, because it doesn't stop counter spells like by name, but what it does is it stops all spells on your turn. So your opponents can't target remove, your opponents can't deal with what you're doing in the moment. It shuts down counter tactics, but it stops all of these things from hurting you when you are trying to put your board together, and it it is nice in that you are able to get your board state worked up and put together without having to worry about your opponents coming in and destroying anything or exiling anything or removing or interacting, at least until the end of your turn. And that is my top 10. I'll give you my 3 honorable mentions. Just based on value, we have Worm Coil Engine. For 6 generic, you get a 6/6 artifact creature Phyrexian Worm with Death Touch and Lifelink. And it says when this creature dies, create a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Worm artifact creature token with Death Touch and a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Worm artifact creature with Lifelink. Most of us know Worm Coil Engine at this point. The nice part about this is it's an artifact that costs 4 or greater, and it is an artifact. So if you wanted to get the discounting on it, you can potentially get the discounting on it. The nice part about T'Challa is he says that when you cast a spell with converted mana or mana value of 4 or greater, you get that draw, or excuse me, he gets those +1/+1s. Well, even with discounting, a spell's CMC is still what it is. Another artifact creature we have called Dotha Forgemaster. 5 generic mana for a 3/5 artifact creature construct. He says it has the ability tap, sacrifice 3 artifacts, search your library for an artifact card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. You cannot sacrifice your indestructible vibranium tokens, but you should have plenty of other artifacts out here to sacrifice, whether that is something akin to a treasure token or anything along those lines. Trading 3 of those artifacts for your potential win con or potentially an answer to something that you need right then and there, and this puts it onto the field at instant speed, at creature ability speed. That is beyond good value. That is a artifact tutor that will give you a game or give you the answer you need to stop an opponent from taking the game. And of course, I had to include a card from the current Marvel set. We have Jennifer Walters / the Sensational She-Hulk. Jennifer Walters is 1 and a white for a 2/3 legendary human advisor hero creature. And she says your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. You can transform her for 3, a green, and 2 white, or just play the Sensational She-Hulk for that much. And Sensational She-Hulk is 6/6 for a legendary gamma hero creature with reach and trample. And she says your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. Whenever a creature you control is dealt damage, you may have the Sensational She-Hulk deal that much damage to any target. Do this only once each turn. The really nice part about this is, for defensive purposes, it turns your little chump blockers into potential massive damage dealers. You are able to throw a smaller creature into the way, or even one of your decently medium-sized creatures into the way, and instead of just becoming a block or a chump block, as we call them, you are then taking that massive damage and flinging it back into an opponent's face. The real reason, I'll be honest, that I put her on this list, though, is because of the first ability she has. On either side. The ability to prevent opponents from casting spells on your turn is may seem out of place in this deck, but again, for the previously stated reasons, you're going to get so much value out of protecting your board on your turn and being able to play what you're going to want and need to play and get the work done before passing the turn and, come what may. But while it's your turn, you do want the protection on your board state. And that is it for my long list of honorable mentions, top 10 suggestions, or just generic 10 suggestions, but swap-ins. And that also does it for our episode. I hope that you have enjoyed our breakdown of the newer cards and the stats and the pricing, etc. If you have any suggestions for what we can do better, or maybe what you'd enjoy seeing in future videos, go ahead and give us a comment. Please like, subscribe, hit us up. We're on TikTok. We're all over the place. I will be starting a membership program soon, I believe, either on YouTube or through Patreon. But I will put the link for that in our socials, and we will catch you later on that. But I'm happy that you've joined me for this breakdown of the Wakanda Forever Commander Precon. We're enjoying Marvel and Magic clashing, and we here at the ManaWeave really hope that you are enjoying as much as we are enjoying some of our favorite, at least my favorite, fandom coming to meet my favorite game. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joe, and this has been the ManaWeave podcast. Stay super. Just like the other precons for Marvel Magic, we get a new Battle Bond dual land. No. Okay. Just like the other Marvel precons, we get a new printing of the Marvel... No. Just like the other precons for Marvel, we have a new printing of one of the Battle Bond two-headed giant dual lands. Okay. Fair enough. The South. You swim and you breathe water. Oh, sticky. It's so sticky. Ah. Come on, Storm. All right. Wakanda Forever.